Hello, everybody. This is Charlene Burke with Grow Because You Know. That's www.growbecauseyouknow.com. Welcome to Morning Mindset Cafe, where we are gathering this morning to discuss Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. In particular, this morning, we're going to be focusing on Stop Old Man Worry in His Tracks, which is part of the last chapter of the book. Old Man Worry. It's a state of mind based on fear. I'm going to put that up here so that we have something. No, I can't talk and type at the same time. You all know that. State of mind based on fear. If you're worrying about something, what are we afraid of? Take a look at that first. Now, if that's personal, you know what you're afraid of. All right? If you are worrying about the outcome of a project, the outcome of a decision that you made, worried about maybe you're getting ready to do something and it's a little unknown, you got that little bit of anxiety. We all know that fear, right? I know that one. How about the worry that is caused by other people's thoughts? You thought about that. The state of the world today. What do you worry about when you travel? What do you worry about when you go to a mall to shop? Are you worried when you go to a new city you're not familiar with? Are you worried when you see a large group of people gathered? Or you know a large group is going to gather? So what can happen is, if we're exposed to, for lack of a better word, bad things happening around the world, around our area. I mean, if you imagine if you have your news station on, 24-hour news, I don't know that was such a good thing. Because there are some that will have that news on in the background, and they're constantly being fed, that brain is constantly being fed headlines. And headlines are created to catch your attention so that you'll listen to the rest of the story. And yet, if all we're doing is listening to something in the background, how do we catch the rest of the story? I don't know that I can. So if I sit and I'm listening to headlines on a constant, regular basis, and I look over at the news station and I'm seeing news alert or breaking news, I'm put into a state of alert, which actually starts to confirm all the headlines that have been dumping into my subconscious. And now I find myself anxious, worried about going places, worried about the future, worried about what might happen without any evidence. But instead, I'm picking up on the anxiety and the fear of everybody else. That's just on television. Hey, good morning, my friends. Natalia, Cindy, Brian. You had me a little worried, my friend. I'm glad you're here. Good to see you. Jim, welcome. So jump on in. Let's talk about worry. It's a state of mind based on fear. And I just covered two levels of worry. The first one is there's worry associated with something I'm planning to do, personal. It's going to meet the parents. Good morning, Tamara. Going to a new place, little anxiety, not sure what to expect. The worry about the completion of a project, just turned in a project, getting ready to meet with somebody, something like that. But then there is the overarching worry, which happens when we're in a group of people or we're exposed on a regular basis to other people's worry. So we catch their fear. How can we protect ourselves against that? Well, the one thing I know to be true, and I looked at it myself after reading this book the first time, is when Napoleon Hill says that these things that we hear, these things that we see, these things that we pick up from other people, all that negativity, all that worry, all that fear, whether we believe we have that same feeling or not, all of that gets embedded in my subconscious mind. And there's this idea that I'm never through with a thought. Once it's in my brain, it plants itself in my subconscious. So it's not like it just goes in and then out, right? No, it sticks there. Hence the not so healthy habit of continually watching the headline news. Good morning, Brian.
Hey, I wish they would define the fear that they were talking about. It's not a fear of protection. It's an unrealistic fear.
Thank you.
And that has been with my fear of heights. That is, or for falling, I can't decide which it is. I can't allow the fear of heights to stop me. Although if I get close to the edge of a cliff, it petrifies me. I literally freeze up. I wish they would redefine the fear to incorporate unrealistic or not plausible.
Well, it's not a redefinition of fear. It's just its application and what you are applying the word to. And I don't know who you mean by they, because fear is fear, and whether it's based on truth or not, the feeling is the same. Worry it's a state of mind based on fear. So whether the fear, again, is true or not, the state of worry is that which we can control.
Okay.
See, that's the angle, if you will, that we're taking with the book, is that just as we can clean out like he says, clean out our medicine cabinet, right? We can clean out our brain in terms of discerning what is that fear. And even if I have a fear that's based on truth or on actual facts or what have you, I can stop the worry. It doesn't stop the fear, but it stops the worry, and that's the point. The point is to clear the mind so that I can continue to take action and move forward rather than being constantly in the negative of the possibility of something happening.
That's a good way to put it. The possibility of something happening.
That's the way I put it, as worry, because worried, nothing's happened yet. I am worried that something is going to happen, something's going to be taken away from me, that the world's going to end. I worry about that. I think about that, and I may not be my guiding thought, but it certainly is part of my decision-making process of how I'm going to view what's in front of me for the day.
Yeah.
So if this is a big if our current economy in the United States is proven to be built on a house of cards and falls apart in 6 months, as some analysts are saying. They say this every year.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying it. If we've got analysts saying this, and in my mind, I'm just going to take something I've always told myself, if 3 people tell me something, I'm going to believe it or pay attention to it. So now let's say I see 4 analysts, highly qualified, experienced, predicting that before the end of the year of 2016, the entire economy will collapse on itself, and we will be in the throes of a depression similar to or worse than the time of Napoleon Hill. And I pay attention to it, and I start to wonder and worry a bit. It brings some anxiety to me. That can escalate to a point of my really, truly, I am beyond trying to be prepared. I am really worried this is going to happen. So that's going to shadow every decision I make regarding my finances from this point forward. That will be a part of my decision making.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, having said that, that also puts me in a state that I'm completely ignoring the 10 analysts that are saying that all is going to be well. See what happens? So I've lost part of my power of judgment. You know, I'm not saying it's good or bad or anything. I'm trying to explain how it applies to me and how I see it. You know, because what Napoleon Hill's telling me is that state of mind that I am about worrying is shadowing all of my decisions. And I have the capacity, and now I'm being given the tool here in this book. I'm being given the tool to replace the worry with whatever feeling I want, quite honestly, that is true and that is going to keep me moving forward. So to remove the negative, put in the positive, and be able to make better decisions. Doesn't mean, trust me, doesn't mean I'm not prepared. You know, doesn't mean I'm not prepared.
So when I was a kid, my mother, we would go to the public school, and my mother would get these notes sent home. Oh, our budget is not on track, and we are going, and I love teachers. I want to clarify that right now. They have some of the toughest jobs in America, especially dealing with the little brats. But with that being said, they would send home these letters saying, we're not on budget, we need money, we need to do fundraisers, your kids need to sell candy bars to get income coming in, which is all fine for me. But she went in and said, let me see your budget. Let me see what you've got to do. And they had all this extra stuff. And my mom looked at that and she goes, I thought school was reading, writing, and arithmetic. What's this, and this on your line items? Why am I paying for that as a taxpayer? So she took it to the newspaper. And she said, they need to cut what they're offering, not the opposite of getting more money in. And it was we're not really big fans of the public school system in Albany, Oregon. They don't like us.
Hey, you know, I've been to 8 different schools, 4 grade schools, 4 high schools. Well, actually 12, because then I went to 4 different colleges. It was public to private, public to private, public to private. I'm with you on that. Go private every time, people.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Go private every time.
Actually, we did that for a while.
Homeschooling, yeah. If my mother had considered it an option, and I don't know why, I never did ask her that, why she didn't, because she was very, very intelligent.
The guy that tutored me in web design and stuff homeschooled all his kids, and
I know many homeschoolers.
He's a college.
And that is one way you can protect yourself against the negative influences of other people, institutions, right? Their way of thinking is by having your own focus on you, set on your values, set on your system, if you will, at home. But I'm going to put a but there only because I know how difficult it is when you don't have other people to back you up. I'm not one that does very well to stand on my own completely.
I think we need each other, but I've never seen a homeschool program that demands you stand alone.
I didn't say there was one.
But it's amazing to me how we limit ourselves by not thinking and are afraid to think outside the box.
Yeah. And that's part of what this is, because we're influenced by other people's statements, their fears, their concerns, their way of thinking.
Well,
you know,
I'm living in my experience right now, so I'm sharing from that. And I hate sharing from that because I hate my experience right now.
It makes total sense, yes.
This whole thing is this whole thing I'm going through with Voc Rehab is the same thing. It's we've got to check you off as your little checkbox that we got you work.
And you could get sucked into that.
I refuse.
See, this is the difference. No, this is the difference, Brian. I know the experience is awful. I know that. But what you're describing, I believe, is exactly what we're talking about today. Yep. That's what I'm hearing. Because as you're talking, I'm thinking, but you're saying, no, I don't want to think that way. And I'm not going to think that way. Instead, I'm going to think this way. And then you found a group of people that think the same way you do, so that you're not by yourself in your thinking. But you chose to not take in what they were saying.
What I'd love to do is take copies of Napoleon Hill's book into the next meeting.
You can do that. That'd make for a great New Year's gift, don't you think?
Yeah. No, it's amazing to me how we diminish each other based upon the what if or the fear.
Yeah.
How we can take somebody like myself and tell them to go work in a warehouse when I'm supposed to be in a wheelchair. You know?
Yeah, the inanity. It's just inane.
How about banality? But
all of that. And yet, those of us that choose to be different, to step away, take a step back, get that little bit of objectivity, have a little bit of arm's length detachment. That's the word. Where we can detach ourselves from the group think, from whether it's the small group, like what you're involved with, or the entirety, like I was talking about with the constant barrage of headlines coming over the news feeds, right? We can choose to pull ourselves away from that and make the decision not to think that way. The difficulty for me comes in with, what are we going to replace that with? Because it's already shown to me that I can't just not think about something, right? I can't just not believe something. It means that I now believe something different, or I now think something different. Am I right?
Yeah. And I think stepping stones are fine. If they're saying, like, look, your health is fine right now. Go work this. And then we can keep looking for that computer job and assist you getting into, hands down, I'd be at the warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
I would be doing it as long as I could physically do the job. And I've applied to those jobs. Where the problem comes in is nobody's hiring me. And I talked to one of the guys at one of the temp agencies, and he says, look, this isn't your problem, even though they've made it your problem, because I've shared just about as much as I've shared with you. And he says, the economy right now is not hiring, period, unless it's a minimum wage job.
Mm-hmm.
You will not retire from a position anymore. And so, yeah.
All right. So I'm going to put up here how to protect yourself against those negative influences. And I'm just going to do what Napoleon Hill has here. And I can't type read and listen or talk at the same time. So hold on here. Protect yourself against negative influences. There we go.
And what I would say on top of that, with that protection, is use a sounding board. I come on here a lot of times, mainly for a sounding board, going, is my thinking right? I included you in the emails to go, yeah, am I wrong?
Well, and that's the advantage of having people within your inner circle.
Yeah.
And thank you for, trusting me enough to have me there. There is advantage to having that inner circle of people that you trust so that I can check myself. I'm just as human as the next person, right? So, keeping all that in mind, there's a couple of things we can do and put it into constant use. Hang tight here. Doesn't help that my keyboard is cattywampus to my chair and everything else. All right. So to protect yourself against negative influences, first, we must recognize that you absolutely do have willpower. And you can put it into constant use to build a barrier against the negative influences, to think and act for yourself. Here, deliberately seek the company of people. This is what Brian and I have been doing with our inner circles. Deliberately seek the company of people who influence you to think and act for yourself. That, combined with the first understanding you do have willpower, you do have the capability of thinking and acting for yourself, and then getting the support and an encouragement and influence of those who believe that you can think and act for yourself, and you can check your thinking against.
That comes hard when the bills come in, though. Well, let me tell you.
Yeah.
And I'm still striving. So anyway, yeah.
But you're still moving forward.
Yeah, until they shut the electricity off, or they shut the internet off, and then what? It's. Yeah.
You keep doing what the only thing I know to do. You keep moving forward. I only know what works for me. I mean, I've taken jobs that are, oh my God, they're mind numbing. Over the years, my husband's done the same thing. He just recently finally got work. Yay. So, there's a little relief there. But again, the panic didn't hit me because, I told you we had a huge financial hit. The panic didn't hit me because we were both still moving towards something, to be open to everything, all the possibilities, not the impossibles, but open to the possibilities, and be willing to look at each one with a keen eye to, is this really something I can do? Is this really something that deserves my attention? And is this really something, because there are things that just really aren't. So,
the hilarious thing about my situation, and I'm going somewhere on my computer to count.
Okay.
I do resumes for people.
Mm-hmm.
I lay them out. I'll take all their information, plug it into a resume format. And I've done that for years. And I'm counting how many I've done just in Colorado Springs.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 7 resumes up in my resumes folder that I've done without pay, just done them.
Mm-hmm.
They've all got jobs. They've all got jobs. I can't get one.
Well, now we just recently redirected your attention, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I gave you some websites and other places to look. It was recent. I know it was recent. It wasn't just yesterday, but it also wasn't like 6 months ago. So there's plenty of time to be out there and get in front of people.
Yeah.
You know. But the reason I gave it to you was because you were asking for, can somebody give me something, anything that's different than what's coming my way right now? Because what's coming my way isn't working. It's not going to work.
Welcome to Walmart. Oh.
Yeah. And then, so I was able to respond because of some of the things that I know about. I don't know if anybody else was able to respond, but the idea is that, you know, what I saw was that you're wanting to be better. You're wanting to continue, you're always wanting to be better. You've shown me that since we've met. You're wanting to change the thinking. You're wanting to put to use your current knowledge. You've already got specialized knowledge and it can be put to use. And so, well, that's what I saw.
Yeah. I just wish it was producing fruit. But no, I don't just sit here in front of the computer every morning. Right. I come on here after we're done. I'm on those job boards. I'm actually going places and turning in resumes. So this, I don't know what the fates or God or whatever is doing, but real long talk.
Well, so one thing I'm not really good at, and let me put that out there right now, is prepping anybody for interviews or working through presentation of self for a career or job. So if anybody here is, maybe there's somebody you can talk to on that realm. Maybe there's something that's happening that when you go to apply, who knows? I don't.
Well, I turned it around on Voc Rehab and I said, okay, I'm not getting the results. Let's do this, what we're doing in reverse. Let me send you the job leads. You have my resume. You have a basic cover letter template that I use. I'll send you the links to the jobs that I want. You apply to them as me, and let's see if you can do any better. You know? And here are my passwords to all the job boards. But no, I need therapy, and I need to pay somebody to sit down and hear all my woes and worries. No, I need a job. So yeah. I'll be quiet now.
I get it. It's a tough morning. I get it. I do. I don't have anything else to offer except that I get it. Huh? Okay. All right. So I was looking at my typing and then saw Chris, I'm sorry. I don't know what you're trying to say.
If you were trying to spell mortgage, you misspelled it too.
I don't know what you're trying to say, and I don't know how that's relevant to our conversation today. So we'll open. We've got another seat open. We can talk about protecting ourselves against negative influences, making use of that willpower to stop old man worry in his tracks. Let's see here. How to think and act for yourself to rebel against those outside forces, whether it be the headline news, whether it be people that you're going to for help, as Brian is saying, that those that were identified as to be helpful to me, I'm not feeling it. You know, so instead he's reaching out and you're adding people to your inner circle. And that's what I understand. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're good.
But adding people to your inner circle that can help you combat that the negativity that you're getting and the lack of response, if you will, the lack of direction that you were hoping to get from them. And that is how we do it, right? We're all susceptible to all of the fears that come with being, I call it the human condition. We're all susceptible to it. When we're in it, when we're in the trouble, is when our inner circle can be of most help. Because that's what keeps us going and helps us to think a little differently. Thinking. I mean, it sounds good. Sounds good. I put myself back into what it was like yesterday. I don't want to go back there again. It's been a while since I felt that frustration. I don't want that again. But as you saw, I get it. You know, I know what that feels like, and it is. It's like fighting your way out of a plastic bag. You know, not a paper bag, but it's constantly shifting and moving and what have you. Hey, Cindy, in the dark. What's up with that, my dear?
Oh, shoot.
Where'd you go?
You know, I was just moving my phone, and I must have accidentally tapped the screen on my phone. Let me go back out and come back in my office.
I was going to say, you're out of power and you're joining us. Okay. All right, dear.
See you in a few minutes.
That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, that is. So, you know, when you're in it, this is why I admire Brian. You're in it, but you're still trying to move forward.
Well, you're
still. Exactly. Exactly. But survival mode is tough.
I love the line in the movie of Shawshank Redemption, get busy living or get busy dying. And
there you go. I'm
trying to live. It's not working real well.
Well, that's why you're I know that's why you're coming here, and that there are those of us. Well, as I said, I've given him websites to go to and places to look for work privately. You know, if anybody here knows of anything, go to Brian's Twitter and send him a private message. You know, and let him know what worked for you, or if you know something.
What's hilarious is I went back and I listed out all my resources, and I got email, and I sent it to Vogue, and I got an email back goes, "Where did you find all this stuff?"
Yeah, well, we've had that conversation before. Yeah, there's a reason nobody wants me to work in government. Good morning, Paul. Good to see you.
Yeah, that was almost hilarious. And I emailed him back with that response. I said, "Isn't this what you're supposed to be doing?" Mm-hmm. I have more resources sitting in my living room than you do in your government job. What?
Yeah, I know.
And I started, this is even funnier. I started off with this wanting to do my own business. And I said, I really want to just do this myself, and maybe in turn hire somebody like myself that's struggling with something. Mm-hmm. So I went to this, I started going to their workshops. They sat me down with this millionaire, I guess. And he told me to quit doing the design, quit doing everything I'm doing, and hire somebody overseas from the Philippines or to do it at $8 an hour. Uh-huh. And I looked across the table at him and I said, "Wow, isn't that like treason? Aren't you supposed to be benefiting an American? You're an American. You're not Filipino."
Well, he's a businessman.
Yeah. And
he's a businessman. He's got, that's the way a business person thinks. If you're going to run the business and provide a service, it's different if you're a freelancer. It's different if you're a project-based contract worker. It's a different level of thinking. Hi, Cindy.
Hi. This should be a little better.
This is so much better. I like seeing you. I'd much rather see you than not. That was kind of scary.
Well, I've done that before, with your phone. If you accidentally tap the Join Now button and you don't realize it, then you're getting on a blab and you're like, uh-oh. I didn't mean need to do that. And I picked my phone up upside down, and I'm like, uh-oh, what did I touch? And sure enough, I
was. That's funny.
Anyway, hey, I've got a question. I didn't pre-read the section. And, you know, it's nice to say we've got the willpower, but is willpower enough? Because I can will that I'm not afraid, but if I'm really afraid about something, it's hard to just will it away.
You have the willpower to make the choice. That's where I take it from. And using that willpower to overwhelm the negative with a replacement.
Yeah.
That's where I'm looking at it. It's not just sitting and willing something away. It's not sitting and thinking that I won't think about something, or denying that it's a truth. You know, it is not denying the truth of the wars that are happening in the world. It's simply, why am I not worried about somebody breaking through my door or invading my town right now? You know, I know that there are wars going on. I know there are terrorist attacks. I know that there are bad people in the world doing bad things to good people. You know, I know there are good people in the world that are snapping and doing bad things. Why am I not worried about them coming into my town or coming in and taking over my house?
307 reasons why I'm not worried.
So, you know, it is that I recognize that that is a truth. But I also recognize that there's a truth in the overwhelming numbers of people who are actively moving forward in their lives, helping each other, who are creating things, who are sharing their creations, who are growing businesses, who are actively looking for work, who are doing it different. They're the positive side. So that's another truth. And it's, for me, it's being able to take my willpower and say that, rather than think and worry that all this bad that's out there is going to happen to me. I'm going to recognize that it's there and simply say that the best way I can prepare myself is these things. You know, Smith & Wesson is my friend. And, you know, that's sort of whatever that takes, right? And I'm prepared. And I've put it's perspective, and I put it in perspective. I'm not getting sucked into the fear of the group. And then I can look at the other truth, that there are others out there. And that's where I can go find some of them, get them into my inner circle. While all the while my inner circle is helping me to maintain my own balance of being able to think and act for myself. It gets me away from group thinking. It gets me away from mob mentality. It gets me away from a collective fear that keeps everybody from doing something. That's my take on it. Did that make any sense?
Yeah, and while you were talking, it couple things came to mind. One of the things that you're talking about is support of others, and having that network around you that supports the positive instead of supports the negative. And that's really important. And of course, that's one of the themes with Napoleon Hill, is the mastermind and the networking and that type of thing. The other thing that came to mind is you made a good point with, you know, you don't just sit there and think about it as far as, you know, fear, is you have to make the choice and do something different. And I think for me, action is an important part, where instead of sitting around thinking about it, I take action. So at least I feel like I'm doing something. I'm working towards a positive. Like with you, Brian, you're taking action every day. You're doing your resumes. You're looking for jobs. You're on the job boards. So that helps get you out of the fear mode, and you at least feel some kind of sense of accomplishment, progress, movement in the right direction. So, you know, action is very important.
And I would say that action relies on self too. I can remember being up on one of these mountain trails, and I seized up, and there were people coming by, and they were watching me, and they were trying to comfort me, and I would politely tell them, I'm trying to conquer this. I'm trying to beat this. I appreciate your help. I appreciate your encouragement. Let me do this. I'm gonna beat this thing. And a lot of times we get in there, and I'm not saying that I'm not appreciative of people helping, because I need it. But at the same time, I want to be doing it, and enabling me to just sit here and not do it and just handing me money doesn't solve the problem. Don't teach me, don't feed me, teach me how to fish.
Right.
You know, and that's my whole point with the government institution is we're not teaching people how to fish. We're just giving them method. Well, go to therapy.
Well, we do it for them.
Yeah. What does that solve? Right. So.
And that's why we love Napoleon Hill and why it frustrates you so much to watch them, because you want to think and act for yourself, as do we who are sitting here. You know, and that is a struggle. It's a struggle when we come up against a wall like that of people that we are either needing or wanting to work with. And the response is a group think that is a struggle to not get sucked into.
I have an angel following me. No,
yeah. It's the branding Cupid.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding. It's amazing to me how we diminish so many people and cause them more fear. Rather than,
so that's not, I'm not in that group.
No, absolutely not.
You're not in that group.
Absolutely.
But recognizing it in somebody else, I can be different.
And it's not an individual, it's a system that's broken. And the more we realize that, the more we can correct that.
Yes. There are people actively attempting to correct it. I'm not one of them because I will get sucked into the anger. So instead, I am focused on, on my personal development, on sharing what I've been through, on my struggles. You what?
I said I'd love to be on your side of the fence. Oh.
We're going to get you there. We're going to get you there. It takes time. And it takes, it's going to take for you, it's going to take a few big things to happen. I get that. I know Cindy understands it too, Yeah. But in the process, keep moving forward. Keep hearing the kind of things that, are helping us to combat those negatives. One of the big things for me, truly, and Cindy said it, was having the other people around me. Let me be around the successful people. Rub off on me. Please rub off on me. Because in my mind, the whole world's going to hell in a handbasket, and the handbasket's damn big, and I don't want to be falling into it, And when I surround myself with the people who are working and thinking differently than I am, it does start to rub off. Because I hear it. I hear how they, how they respond to the world. And it makes a difference. It reinforces the way I want to respond, but it also provides me support now that I am responding to the world in that way.
I think that is huge also, being that it focuses the mindset, if you will, on something else. So you're not focused on the fear. You're focused on, look, we're going to encourage you till it happens. And if it doesn't happen, we're going to point you in another direction. I'm all for that, but don't diminish the ability that I have. Don't tell me something stupid like...
Well, now wait a second, Brian. All right, so I've got to step in here and just tell you, I could tell you anything I want to tell you, my friend.
You're
right? Don't tell me not to tell you something.
Right.
Instead say, well, isn't that interesting? That doesn't apply to me.
Yeah, well, and that's what I've done. And
yeah.
Because the more you're saying it, the more you're reinforcing what they're saying. You're starting to reinforce it in me. I'm having to battle back, Brian. I'm having to battle back, my friend, and say, oh, no, that's not it. That's not it. Instead, we're saying, it's just really interesting thought. It's wrong. Doesn't apply to me. Now let's look in a different direction.
And not only it doesn't apply to me, but here's why it doesn't apply to me. You can't just leave it out there as it doesn't apply to me.
Okay. Finish it out.
I don't think, if you're arguing the point to argue, what sense does that make?
Right.
You have points to back up your point to argue. And valid points. And you can't say, well, your thinking is wrong, because they can.
Correct.
Then you don't have a point. You're arguing to argue. And yeah, I find that very interesting. And I wonder, I don't say this for my situation, and I don't talk about this but there are others out there just like me. There are others out there that are going through this. And if they're doing the same thing, to them, it would be interesting for us to collectively go together and approach them and say,
well, there are also others out there that have been through it and come out.
Yes. And I wish I knew where they were.
Well, then let's put that out there.
I'm talking.
Let's put that out there, that you are now ready to find those people who have been through this, who walked away and found a different way. You're ready to find them so that you can talk to them and have them be a part of your circle.
You were talking about having people around so that you can pick up, whatever characteristics, mindsets, whatever. That reminded me.
I'll take their vibe over mine. Yeah.
Yeah. This is not exactly the same thing, but for some reason it reminded me of when I was a lot younger. My family didn't have a sense of humor, and I really wanted a sense of humor. So what I did was I started hanging around with people that I loved their sense of humor so that I could pick it up. So I was hoping that would kind of, I would absorb it and do fun.
Did it rub off?
Yeah. I mean, it helped a lot. I'm like, oh, this is great, because in actuality, I had a sense of humor. I
yes,
just
you do
know it because,
they brought it out in you. Yeah.
Our family was just way too serious and whatever. But,
oh, that's funny. See, I come from a family of they all have a sense of humor, and I was the serious one. They had to, it eventually started coming out. It was there. I grew up with it. It was, and the more you know me, the more it comes out. Still that way today. You've got to really be, it takes time. Takes time. But once it starts coming out, even my husband finally said after quite a few years, it started coming out. He says, good Lord, it's payback. I'm going away. So, it's your turn now, buddy. It's your turn, and he's a prankster.
It's interesting to me that if you look on the dating sites, that sense of humor or funny or makes me laugh is one of the top 3 requirements for the thing people are looking for.
And why do you think that?
Yeah.
Just think about that for a second. Why do we look for people to make us laugh?
Because we want happiness and joy in our life. There's so much negativity. There's
right. It's an excellent way to combat that negativity that's being thrown at us.
Yeah.
That's why I love this laugh revolution lady. Drives me nuts. But she makes a good point. Just laugh about it.
Well, I have a friend who is a laughter yoga practitioner.
Oh, yeah, I've seen her around.
And Melanie is something special. She's something special, and it's a practice type of yoga that actually is quite beneficial in overall health and mental well-being. So there's no doubt laughter is an excellent medicine against the negative influences. And it really does come down to making the decision to be different. And then replacing those negatives with something else. If you want to call them positives, that's fine. But what influences do I have? Even if I have somebody who's a combo pack, if it's a strong enough influence, right? If it's a strong enough influence, I get rid of them for a while, limit my exposure to them, and fill up on somebody who's not quite the combo pack. Just a thought. I want to welcome everybody who's come in. Chef Michael, so good to see you. Hoping you are well this morning. Michael, our branding Cupid, nice to have you with us. Richard, welcome. Team Doral, nice to see you. Natalia, welcome. Rhonda, good to see you here. And Build, if you have a name, I'll be happy to use it. So good to have you here. Welcome.
I love the Nick Rhonda White Eagle because I knew White Eagle before he died. He was very much an operatic singer, and he died of AIDS. I was a kid. Yeah.
Okay, there went some free thought. All right.
The Nick remind me of him.
Yeah.
So
we've got an extra seat here. Anybody want to jump in and talk about stopping old man worry? Worry is it's based on fear. Can we control that fear? Can we kick back, push back with our own willpower and stay away from groupthink that's harmful to us? How do we stand up and think and act for ourselves, right? I guess that's really what it comes down to. Right. Be able to see what's coming at me and discern whether or not I really want that as a part of me right now. Is it true? Does it work for me? Is it going to be helpful to me? One of my favorite things is, and you've heard this from me in the months we've been together, is there really anything I can do about it right now? And if there is, what is it? If there's not, I can move to the next thing. And there's a great benefit to having an inner circle so that when I'm not able to do that, when I'm not able to move forward, even though I can see it, that I can go to them. Like Brian was saying, you can come here and check your thinking, or to check what you see. Am I seeing this correctly? Or I can't let go. I want to move in this direction, and darned if my brain isn't stuck. And I can tell you this. Is that, and he just left, bless his heart, Ralph. And in my mind, I call him the gratitude man. Mm-hmm. And he is the epitome of what I view as gratitude as a verb. And he reminds me that, there you are, Ralph. You remind me that sometimes the simplest cure is to go out and help somebody else. Is to extend yourself to somebody else. Take that action. Yeah. Make it about them. Stop making it about me. And get out of the spiral, because they will pull me out by my making them the center and being there for them. Good morning, Ralph.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning,
Good to see you. How are you?
Outstanding.
Good.
Old man worry.
Yeah.
Old man worry.
I hate
There's a reason he's an old man. He worried himself into the wrinkles into the old man, right?
I ran into something that I had forgotten about. I ran into an index card I had next to my bed, and it's a really simple technique for in the morning. You fill in the blank on 3 different statements. Today I am going to blank. Today I am going to feel blank. And I am going to let God do blank. And when I was in really strong worry mode, then of course I'm going to let God do, and that's the worry. or I'm going to let God do, deal with the money, or, the finances, or whatever. And, that's so simple, and I don't know, maybe seems kind of silly, but it was effective, because then I was getting help from, what does Napoleon call it? Not innate intelligence. Anyway.
The infinite intelligence.
Yeah, I mean, from the universe, from the infinite intelligence, God, however you view it or call it, getting help from a higher power, and to say, okay, you take care of the fear today. I don't have time for it. I've got to do this.
I love that. I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this. There's other things that need my attention.
Yeah. And before I forget, Ralph, I want to connect up with you after this, because I found a website through some of the websites Charlene has told me about as well, that I don't know. I found it by accident, and it's got a lot of website stuff in it. Because isn't that what you do, is building websites?
No, I'm.
Oh, I'm sorry, not Ralph.
Who are you talking to?
I'm talking about Brian.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, and I wanted to catch up with you too, Ralph, because we're not that far away, and I know it's been flooding up there. It's been flooding down here, and I have a real estate question for you, but I don't want to do it on blast.
Well, happy to help, but old man worry. I guess my question is, why do you worry?
What are you afraid of?
And when you start thinking about why you're worrying, you're focusing on whatever it might be. And one of the things that I heard a long time ago, when my kids were just starting to drive, my children were just starting to drive, and it's challenging for parents, especially moms, when they're supposed to be home at 10 o'clock, and here it is 11 or 11:30 and they're not home. And the thoughts that are running through your mind is, oh my gosh, they're ended up in a ditch someplace. There was somebody said something about you're planning unnecessary funerals.
Yeah.
You're thinking of all these things, and basically going back to what I talked about one time before, is about the stories we tell ourselves when we're in a situation. And if you got more month than you got money, and you got to pay the mortgage or pay the electric, whatever, you can sit there and just focus on the lack of money, or you can pay the bills that you can pay and focus on what you can do. It's not saying that you're going to disregard them and not take care of them, but they say the best way to dig yourself out of the hole is stop digging. Because when your mind keeps, telling more stories and more, like somebody worrying about their child. Oh my gosh, here it is, 11:30, 12 o'clock, they're not home. Oh, it must have been a terrible accident. And you're telling all these stories, and it may not be the case at all. And how many times? Probably 99% of the times it is not the case. But we work ourselves up, and we build that weight, that fear, that anxiety for what? I know Charlene's gone through some things. I went through some financial things, and I need to hear the message I'm trying to give today. And I got myself in a hole, and I kept digging and digging and digging, because I was so focused on my lack or inability to do what I wanted to do, and the inability became more pronounced when I kept worrying. But once I changed that my focus and started to focus on other things, on what I could do, then my whole life turned around. So old man worry, he comes to visit, but I had no room at the inn for him. I try to catch myself getting into that human pattern of, oh my gosh, this is going to happen or that's going to happen. And then I pull my big boy pants up and say, not going to happen. You know, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to take care of what I can and leave it. You know, you can't, you know, you're talking about the floods here. It doesn't do any good to worry about, you know, your house is underwater. It doesn't do any good to worry about all the damage it is or has happened in the house. You know, sometimes you just got to let things pass and pick up and move on from there.
That pretty much put it in a nutshell. I mean, you're recognizing the reality. Worry is putting more into the reality of what the situation is, which causes you to stop being able to move forward. It's a good way to put it.
And you were just talking about happiness and joy before. You know, how can you be happy and joyous and be the best that you can be? If you're under that type of stress and that type of pressure, you know, as a realtor, if I've got that weight carrying that around, what type of level of
what are you going to attract
to my clients if I've got this luggage on my back and I'm lugging that around? You know, if I got bills to pay and like through the challenging times when there wasn't much as many sales as I'd like to see or as my bank account needed, you know, you can't take it with you because you can't take that worry with you, because all it's going to do is create bigger, you're going to dig yourself deeper.
It's going to become a magnifying glass.
You're going to lose other sales or not be able to help somebody.
Yep.
So
it will magnify whatever it is that you're afraid of. Okay, so we're at the top of the hour. I am going to close out the recording, and I can keep the room open for a while. So hang tight. I want to thank everybody who's joined me in the live stream and those who are in the comment section. It's a good discussion for the end of the year. You know, why worry? What can we do about it? How can we stop him in his tracks, right? And for those watching the replay, thank you. Thank you for joining us. This is Charlene Burke with Grow Because You Know. It's www.growbecauseyouKnow.com. Let's move forward with the day on purpose, with purpose, to grow our hearts, grow our minds, and grow our businesses. Until next time, have a great day.